Yamuna Tira Vanacham Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihar Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradham Hari Yashodanandana Vrajana Rangana Yamuna Tira Vanacham Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihar Hari Jaya Radha Shama Sundara Shama Sundara Hare Jaya Radhe Shyam Radhe Shyam Radhe Shyam Jaya Radhe Shyam Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudeva Gurudev Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Radhe 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 Lalita Vishakhe 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 Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Vichaya Shota Asata Shishmachile Sivaktivedanta Sanshila Prabhupada Ki Jaya Vishnupada Paramahamsa Vichaya Shota Asata Shishmachila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Shila Prabhupada Ki अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की श्री रूप श्री सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त सरगनाचार्य को संप्रभु की प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवहरि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपाल गोपी गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की श्री वृंदावन धाम की श्री श्री मथुरा धाम की, श्री मायापुर धाम की, श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, तुलसी महारानी भक्ति देवी की, गंगा यमुना देवी की, हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की, श्री श्री गौरीताय की, श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की, श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की, गो प्रेमानंदे हरे हरे बोल, समवेत भक्त वृंद की। All glories to the Son of the devotees, all glories to the Son of the devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutabada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagaradatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Datta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimati Radharani ki, Sri Radhashtami Maha Mahotsav ki. So we are very fortunate to be assembled here in Sri Vrindavan Dham, the day before the most auspicious appearance day of Srimati Radharani. So traditionally, whenever there is a festival, the day before there is a ceremony performed which is known as Adivas Puja. So today we are starting to discuss about Srimati Radharani. In this way we are starting the celebrities for this most important, auspicious day, the appearance of Srimati Radharani for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Of course, first of all, we have to also understand Tattva Vichara, the consideration of the absolute truth. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is the source of everything. He is residing in the spiritual realm, the highest planet, Golok Vrindavan, and is surrounded by his eternal associates, his parents, his friends, and then Srimati Radharani and the gopis. So this knowledge regarding Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Srimati Radharani is actually revealed in the age of Kali by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the incarnation for the age of Kali, who has established the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the holy names, the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And that is knowledge, and especially also taking shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then taking shelter of Radha Krishna, specifically Srimati Radharani. So that has been given through the disciplic succession, especially the 6 Goswamis headed by Rupa Goswami, and then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada, and then our Prabhupada. So, just like Krishna is Swami Bhagavan, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all the spiritual material worlds, and the source, the original personality, and so many personality of Godheads, they are simply expansions of Krishna. Similarly, it is explained by our acharyas that Srimati Radharani, so she's the Mool Shakti. She's the original, of course, pleasure potency of Krishna, Hladini Shakti, Antaranga Shakti, the eternal potency. And she's the source also of all the female counterparts of the Lord, the eternal consorts, Lakshmi Devis, even Sita Devi, Parvati Devi, Sita Rani. They're actually all ultimately expansions of Srimati Radharani. Just like Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, so Srimati Radharani, she's the original goddess of fortune. So then in regards to hearing about the wonderful pastimes of Krishna, Srimati Radharani, that is a consideration of the Lila Vichar, the consideration of the wonderful pastimes. So in truth, Krishna is a supreme person and is a controller of everything. In regards to the pastimes in Braj, specifically, so Krishna is of course, the beloved Prananath of all the Brijavasis. And so the gopis are the most exalted of his associates. And then in the pastimes, although Krishna is Supreme Lord, but many times he's controlled by his friends, Maria Yashoda, as in Damodar Lila, and then also by the gopis, specifically Srimati Radharani. So in Lila Vichar, even Prabhupada has explained, and it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Krishna is controlled by Srimati Radharani, and even it is mentioned that Krishna is like a puppet in Srimati Radharani's hands. It is mentioned just like a puppeteer, a person who is pulling the strings for the puppets. Like previously they had puppets and they were holded by strings. So he's holding the strings. So similarly, Krishna is just a puppet in Srimati Radharani's hands. So much is the glorification of Srimati Radharani in the consideration of the wonderful pastimes. Even it is mentioned by our acharyas, although we know that, for example, 1,000 names of Vishnu equals to one name of Ram. Sahasra Vishnu Nam is equal to one Ram Nam. And 3 Ram Nam is equal to Krishna Nam. So then it is explained by our acharyas, thus in glorification of Radhanam and the position of Srimati Radharani, the 1,000 names of Krishna equal to one name of Srimati Radharani. Shri Radhanam ki. So just like there are thousands names of Vishnu or Krishna, there are also 1,000 names of Srimati Radharani. Of course, we don't have much time, only 1 hour, so we can just give a few words in glorification of Srimati Radharani. And just like there are also 108 names of Krishna, and there are few 108 names of Krishna mentioned in the Vedic literatures. There are also few 108 names of Srimati Radharani, which are more principal names. And then there's a description also of 60 names of Srimati Radharani or 10 names of Srimati Radharani. So I will just read a few names of them and just mention also the translation. Of course, the principal name, just like Krishna's principal name is there, Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. That is Krishna's principal name. And is famous throughout, of course, the spiritual world and the material world. At the same time, there are so many names of Krishna, and the most beloved name of the gopis actually is the name Shyama Sundar. Radha Shyama Sundar ki. And so for Srimati Radharani, and also so many names, but the most common name is Sri Radha. or Srimati Radharani. And so from 108 names of Radharani, so one of them is another name, Gandharvika. She who is expert in singing and dancing. And another name, just like Krishna is known as Yashodanandan, as Nandanandan, the son of Maria Yashoda, Nanda Baba. So Srimati Radharani is known as Brishabhanuja, born from King Brishabhanu. Of course, so we are celebrating the appearance, and so it is also befitting to tell a few words about her appearance of Srimati Radharani. And it is mentioned that she appeared in Raval, which is near to Gokul. Because actually Srimati Radharani, she wants to be always close to Krishna. Eternally, Krishna's abode is in Golok Vrindavan, that is known that is in Nandagaon. Even as we know, so Krishna appeared in Gokul, but then he stayed there actually for 3 years and 4 months. And so Radharani, she appeared in Raval and stayed also there 3 years and 4 months. Of course, the parents are arranging the stay and then they're moving here and there. And because there were many demons attacking Krishna, so therefore they moved to Chandikara, Nanda Baba and his associates. At that time, Srimati Radharani's parents, Brishabhanu Maharaj, decided, let us also move, because my friend Nanda Baba has moved, but ultimately because Radha Krishna, they have to be together. And so they stayed in one place near Chandikara, known as Vasanti, near Ral. And after 6 years and 8 months, Krishna's father, Nanda Baba, decided, let us go back to our original home, Nandagaon. And they went back to Nandagaon, and Brishabhanu Maharaj decided, so let us go also back to our home, which is so Srimati Radharani is, of course, sometimes it is also explained, the appearance place of Varshanada. I will come back to that soon. So they went back to Varshana. But in the spiritual realm, so Krishna is permanently residing in Nandagaon, in the spiritual realm, and Srimati Radharani in Varshana. But in this world, so they will appear in Gokul and Raval respectively. So it is mentioned in the scriptures that Vrishabhanu Maharaj and Kitade Devi, they had already one child, Radharani's elder brother Sridham, and but they were also eager to have a daughter. But somehow, just like Krishna didn't appear immediately, Nanda Baba and Yashoda were already older. And that is actually the reason why they moved from Nandagaon to another place, to Gokul. Similarly, Srimati Radharani didn't appear immediately. But suddenly then in the morning, Vrishabhanu Maharaj, on this specific day, tomorrow, Bhadramas Ashtami Tithi, so he went to take his bath in the morning, early morning, 5 o'clock, like we take early bath in the morning. And so he went to the nearby Jamuna river and he saw on a golden lotus a beautiful baby. And so he took that little, and then he saw it was a girl. And he took her home, and then of course Kitali Devi was also delighted. But then it is mentioned also that she was not able to see, she was blind. Of course, that would not be considered auspicious normally, and therefore Nanda Baba, Vrishabhanu Maharaj was a little bit unhappy, and Kitali Devi also. But then Narada Muni came just a few days later and to the house of Vrindavan Maharaj because he could understand that Srimati Radharani had appeared. So then he came to the house and he asked, so you have a newborn child? And then he was a little hesitant because she was blind. And he said, well, I have a son. And he brought his son, his name is Sridham. And Narayana said, very well, nice, wonderful boy. But there's no other child. And then Vrindavan Maharaj hesitatingly, he's mentioned, yes, I have a daughter also. But she's not able to see, her eyes are closed. Then he said, no issue, please bring her here. Immediately, I want to see her. And as soon as he brought her, then he offered pranams to her and circumambulated her and Vrindavan Maharaj and offered prayers. And of course, Maharaj, he was a little surprised. And then he departed from there, Narada Muni. And then a little later on, so for the name-giving ceremony, he invited Nanda Baba for the name-giving ceremony of his daughter. And so Nanda Baba came with Yashoda and Krishna also. Then little Krishna went to where Srimati Radharani was, and then looking at her, then Srimati Radharani opened her eyes, because the first thing she wanted to see is her beloved Shyama Sundar. Sisi Radha Shyama Sundar ki. Many wonderful pastimes are there right from the beginning of the lives of the divine couple. But the beginning, of course, specifically more pastimes are given in regards to Krishna, his childhood pastimes, and a little bit about Srimati Radharani. But then later on, when the time is there for Radha and Krishna to meet together, then so many pastimes are there. So the name Vrindavan is there because he discovered her, so he was considered then the darling daughter of especially Vrindavan Maharaj. So therefore she is known as also as Varshabhanavi Devi. Varshabhanavi means she who belongs to Vrindavan Maharaj. Of course, she is also known as Kirtita Kanyaja. Kanyaka, the Kirtita's daughter. In one place it is mentioned in Vishwanath Chakravarti in one of his books that Kirtita Ja, again there the word Ja means appeared, so belonging to Kirtita. And actually it is mentioned in some of the scriptures, and even if you go to Varshana, they will show you the appearance place of Srimati Radharani there in Varshana. Even in one of the Puranas it is mentioned there's a place near to Vrindavan Maharaj's palace. There's a kund there, Vrindavan Kund, and it is explained also, so must be in another day of Lord Brahma, that the Vrindavan, when he was taking bath in the kund, that she appeared at that time. So the Lord's pastimes, they are basically in this material world, when Krishna performs his pastimes, there are many similarities, but it is not always the same. Sometimes a little difference is there. Just like Krishna's names are describing Krishna's wonderful qualities, Krishna's attributes, or also Krishna's wonderful pastimes are indicated there. Similarly with Srimati Radharani's names also. She's known as, also verses are there indicating her different names, like in the different verses glorifying Srimati Radharani given by our Acharyas. Govinda Nandini Radha, Govinda Moini, Govinda Sarvasva, Sarva Kanta Shiromani, Govinda Nandini Radha. So Srimati Radharani, Govinda Nandini. So she's giving pleasure to Govinda. to Krishna. Govinda Mohini, like Krishna is known as Madan Mohan, the bewilderer of Cupid. And Srimati Radharani is known as Radha or Madan Mohan Mohini. So she is able to bewilder Krishna, the bewilderer of Cupid. So similarly, so another name of Krishna, very famous name of Krishna is Govinda, also very famous, one of the principal names of Krishna is Govinda. He was giving pleasure to the cows, to the senses, to the gopas and the gopis. So Govinda Mohini, so she's bewildering by her wonderful love and her qualities. And the loving exchange, she's many times bewildering Krishna, Govinda, Shyam Sundar. So therefore her name is also Govinda Mohini. Govinda Sarvasva, just like Krishna is Pranana, the Lord of the life of all the gopis, of Mother Yashoda and the friends of Krishna. So similarly, so Srimati Radharani is everything, actually more than Mother Yashoda, more than the gopas. So Krishna, he likes everyone, but he likes the most actually the gopis, amongst them Srimati Radharani. So therefore, Govinda Sarvasva. So Srimati Radharani, she is everything for Govinda. Govinda Sarvasva. Sarva Kanta Shiromani. Kanta means the beloved of Krishna. So Gopi Kanta, Radha Kanta. Sarva Kanta Shiromani. So the unlimited gopis. But the foremost of all of them is Srimati Radharani. Devi Krishnamaya Prokta Radhikapara Devata Sarva Lakshmi Maya Sarva Kanta Shiromani. So this is a similar verse. Devi Krishnamaya Prokta. So she's actually the internal energy of Krishna. And she's the supreme goddess of fortune. The foremost of all the Lakshmi Devi is the beloved of the Supreme Lord. And as we also recite from the Brahma Samhita, Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha Lakshavrite Susarvira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Sadasambrama Sevamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Lord Brahma is praying, or he is glorifying Govinda as his worshipable object. Govinda Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I am worshipping Govinda, who is the Adi Purush. And so he's describing Chintamani Dham, Vrindavan Dham. And there are wish-fulfilling trees there, Kalpa Vriksha trees. And Krishna is surrounded by the cows emitting so much milk, as much as one wants. And as surrounded by the gopis. So the foremost of all of them is Srimati Radharani. So therefore she is glorified in this way by all the acharyas, in not only our sampradaya, but even in other sampradayas. They all recognize Srimati Radharani as the foremost of the eternal consorts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even it is mentioned in one of the scriptures, actually in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Narayan, Lord Narayan, Bhagavan Narayan is speaking to Lord Brahma and is glorifying Srimati Radharani, explaining about her wonderful names and her qualities. Sri Narayana Vacha Radha Raseshwari Rasavasini Rasikeshwari Krishna Pranadika Krishna Priya Krishna Sarupini Krishna Vamanga Sambhota Paramananda Rupini Krishna Vrindavani Vrindavana Vinodini Chandra Vali Chandrakanta Sarachandra Prabhanana Namani Etani Sarani Te Sambhabhyantarani. So these are 16 names. So I will just mention them. So the first name, so that is Narayan, is saying to Lord Brahma, giving transcendental knowledge to Lord Brahma about the highest abode and the supreme goddess of fortune. So we know that Narayan is accompanied by his eternal consort Lakshmi Devi. But so that Narayan is glorifying Srimati Radharani. And we know that Narayan is an expansion of ultimately Krishna. So similarly, Lakshmi Devi is expansion of Sri Radha. So everyone is glorifying Srimati Radharani in the spiritual world, and all the saintly persons in the material world, in the higher planets, in these planets, wherever a saintly person is there, who is knowledgeable, even the four sampradayas are there, and they're all recognizing the supreme position of Srimati Radharani. So Radha, she who is the bestower of ultimate divine bliss. Of course, there are many explanations of the name of Radha. What is the meaning of Radha? I will come back to that a little later. Raseshwari, she who is the goddess of the rasa dance. As we know, many pastimes are there in Braj, with all of Krishna's associates, but the foremost are with the gopis. And amongst the various pastimes with the gopis, so that is explained that the rasa lila, the rasa dance, which is happening very often, usually whenever there's a full moon night, then Krishna is calling the gopis by playing the flute, and they're going to meet him. Krishna is the center of the rasa dance, but the supreme counterpart in the rasa dance is Srimati Radharani. So therefore she is known as Raseshwari. Krishna is Raseshwar. Rasa Ishwar is the Lord of the rasa dance. He's the only male. But then there are many goddesses of fortune, gopis, who are dancing with Krishna. But the supreme among them is Srimati Radharani. Therefore she is known as Raseshwari. And as we know, in a famous rasa dance on Sharad Purnima, when Srimati Radharani saw that there are so many gopis there, her friends were there, and even the gopis from the different other groups, the friendly group, the neutral group, and Vipaksha gopis, those from the opposing party. So she was feeling a little bit disappointed. And then also new gopis were there who had just joined Krishna's pastimes. And Prabhupada also has mentioned the aim or the goal of our life, the supreme goal of life, is to actually dance with Krishna, to enter the Rasa Lila. So when the Maharas was performed, all of Krishna's eternal associates, the gopis were there, but then some new gopis who had become perfect in the association then of the gopis, the Nityasiddha gopis, they were also allowed for the first time to enter the rasa dance. So Srimati Radharani was a little bit disappointed, and therefore she left the rasa dance, the rasa arena. And when Srimati Radharani left, although there were so many gopis there, but because Srimati Radharani was the most exalted Mahabhav, the greatest love for Krishna, so when she was not there, then Krishna was not feeling so much transcendental pleasure, and he left all the other gopis and went to see Srimati Radharani. And then of course, as we know, the gopis were looking for Krishna, and ultimately just to enhance the wonderful pastime, Krishna also left Srimati Radharani, and then all together they were searching for Krishna. So that is also described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the famous Gopi Geet is about the separation after the Ras Leela, how they were looking for Krishna and feeling separation from Krishna. And then another name, Rasavasini, she who always lives within the rasa dance. Of course, all the pastimes of Krishna are wonderful, with his gopis, but with all the associates, but especially with the gopis. But the acharyas have explained Sarva Manoram, the Rasa Leela is actually the most enchanting, most beautiful. Of course, the Nikunja Leela is there, which is also very astonishing and beautiful. Again, Rasikeshwari. So Rasika is also one of Srimati Radharani's name. So the meaning here that is a little different. Rasikeshwari. So she is the goddess of those who relish divine mellows. Like we know sometimes we speak about Rasik Vaishnav. Ras, the transcendental mellow is there. And those who are relishing that, they are known as Rasik Vaishnav. Those who understand their relationship with Krishna, and then in the loving exchange, they can experience this transcendental mellow, this transcendental bliss, which is known as Ras. So they are known as Rasik Vaishnav. So Krishna himself is known as Rasik Shekhar. He is the ultimate relisher of the wonderful transcendental mellows with all of his associates, but especially with the gopis. Rasik Shekhar Param Karun. So Krishna is the relisher of the wonderful transcendental mellows and is most merciful. And so Srimati Radharani is Rasika. She's a Rasika. So she's also the supreme relisher in the relationship with Krishna. So therefore she is known as a Rasikeshwari. Krishna Prana Adhika. She who is dearer to Krishna than his own life. So Krishna, of course, that is the Lila Vichar in the pastime. In truth, Krishna is complete and perfect in Tattva Vichar. Atmaram Aptakam is completely perfect and nothing is lacking in Krishna. And he doesn't need anybody. He's self-satisfied. But still, he himself, by his own potency and his own transcendental will and for his own pleasure, he has created so much variety in the spiritual world and his eternal associates, and that is ever increasing. Although there are unlimited associates of Krishna in Golok, which is the highest planet, which is, it is mentioned even in the scriptures that that all the Vaikuntha planets, they are just in one corner of Braj. And Braj is much bigger than all the Vaikuntha planets. And already it's explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita that we cannot even conceive of the Vaikuntha planet, of even one. Even the whole universe, which we cannot even completely understand, is very, very insignificant. Thousands of universes are emanating from Mahavishnu. And all the material existence is just not equal to Vaikuntha. But all the Vaikuntha planets are just one part of Krishna's existence. So there are unlimited associates, but still, so Krishna, although is Atmaram Aptakam, fully self-satisfied, but he's always having more devotees, eternal associates coming and joining his pastimes by his inconceivable potency. And but still then, so there's a loving exchange with all his associates, but most dear to him is Srimati Radharani. And in the pastime, Lila Vichar, Krishna, he cannot live without Srimati Radharani. So Krishna, even during the day, every day, so he's feeling separation from Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani is feeling separation from Krishna. Although actually they are never separated. Because Krishna is always remembering Radharani, and then she's practically manifest. And Radharani, she's always remembering Krishna, so it becomes manifest. Just like we say when we're chanting, and it is true, we're chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. When we are chanting the holy names purely, then we can see Krishna. and Krishna's associates. And the Mahamantra is also known as Yugal Mantra. Hare, that refers to Srimati Radharani. So in the perfect state, when we chant the Mahamantra, then we can remember, we can see Radha Krishna. Radha Krishna will appear. They will manifest. So we want to speak of Krishna. He's calling Radha, then Radharani is present. Or Radharani is calling out to Krishna, Krishna, and then Krishna will be present there. So they are one, but they become two to perform wonderful pastimes. So although they are always together ultimately, but in the pastime, so Krishna is in Nandagaon and Srimati Radharani, she is in Barshana, and then so outwardly they're feeling some separation and they want to meet each other. And actually in separation there is meeting. When they're calling out to each other, then they will meet also. Prem Vaichitya. And even so that is when they're together, so sometimes Radharani, she's fearing separation. Even one time Prem Sarovar, Radha Krishna, they were together and she was sitting on the lap of Krishna, Srimati Radharani. And then one bee came, one bumblebee, and so he was just going around Srimati Radharani. And then she was a little bit annoyed by that. She tried to chase him away, the bumblebee, but she was not able to, was always coming back, being attracted by the beautiful lotus face of Srimati Radharani, which is like, so. And then she told Krishna, please you chase him away, chase this bee away. Of course in Sanskrit it's a very wonderful language, and for one object there may be so many names. Like for the sun, Surya, Bhaskar, Aditya, many names are there. Ravi for one object, or for water. So many names are there, Jal, Ambu and so on. So similarly also Brahma is there for the bumblebee, but there's another name, Madhusudan. So Krishna told his friend Madhumangal, you chase away the bee. Brahma, you chase away this Brahma. And so Madhumangal chased away the bee, and he came back, and so another name is Madhusudan. So they always want to go for the nectar, the bees and the bumblebee also, which is there in the flower, the pollen. And Madhumangal has come back, and then he's exclaiming, I chased away Madhusudan. Although she was sitting on the lap of Krishna, whose name is also Madhusudan, so when she heard the name Madhusudan, she immediately came in that in this position of feeling separation from Krishna. Although she was sitting on the lap of Srimati Radharani, and she was crying, and tears were just coming down from the eyes, and that created actually Prem Sarovar. And then Krishna was considering, so if this is the case, even in my presence sometimes she feels separation, so let me just go. And that was then, after that he went to Matra. And Prakat Lila, of course in the spiritual world, Radha Krishna, they're always in Braj, but even on daily basis, Krishna is taking out the cows and the calves, and then Srimati Radharani will feel separation. But then they meet at noontime in Radhakund, at the Govardhan. But then again Krishna has to go back, and Srimati Radharani goes back also. And again they feel separation for each other. And then they meet at night time again. So Srimati Radharani, she's the life of Krishna, dearer in his own life. Similarly Krishna is Prananath, is the life of Srimati Radharani's life. Krishna Priya, very near to Krishna. And of course Srimati Radharani is the beloved of Krishna. Krishna Sarupini. So that means that Srimati Radharani's form resembles also Krishna actually. And even the pastimes is there sometimes, that when Krishna is absorbed in Srimati Radharani, then he takes the complexion, golden complexion of Srimati Radharani. That happened actually in Imlitala, next to the Jamuna. That was also after Ras Leela. One time, so Krishna then was coming there's a place nearby, the Rasa study, and he was coming, Radharani's hair, but then he left her also and he went to Imlitala. And then he was feeling also separation from Radharani and he took a golden complexion. And then the gopis, they came there and they saw. And a beautiful person looks like Krishna, but just the complexion is different. Krishna is darkish, Krishna, Megasham, like the dark rain cloud. So they were really astounded. They came close, very close, and of course at that time, when Radharani is close to Krishna, then Krishna immediately opened his eyes, and then he saw Srimati Radharani, and then he didn't think of her anymore, and then again he was Shama Sundar. And this is an indication also of Mahaprabhu's identity. Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, but the complexion and the bhav, the mood of Srimati Radharani. Similarly, it is explained in the scriptures of the Acharyas, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. At noontime when they meet at Radhakund, sometimes Krishna is absorbed in the mood of Radharani. He assumes her complexion, and Srimati Radharani is absorbed in the mood of Krishna, and she also is actually assuming Krishna's complexion. And then even the gopis, they're becoming bewildered. Who is who now? So that is explained by the Acharyas. So therefore, and because it is natural also, if one is associating, so therefore it is recommended that we associate with the pure devotees. Then we will have the same, because by association we can have the same mood. Especially the association of the pure devotees, then the mood of the pure devotee can come in our heart. And that is a well-known fact. For example, if somebody is a person who is smoking, or people are smoking, if somebody is going there, then he will also be inclined to smoke. So that is natural that we can see in this world. So if we associate with saintly persons, then we will also acquire saintly qualities. So Radharani is associating with Krishna, so she has similar mood and qualities of Krishna. And similarly, Krishna is together with Radharani, so similar qualities are there, and that is manifested then in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Vamanga Sambhuta, she who is generated, she who appeared from Krishna's left side. We know that Krishna is the source of everything, and it is mentioned Radharani is always on the left side of Krishna. So, and Krishna is Adipurush, is Mulrup, is the origin of everything. Although both of them, they are all eternal, all the Vishnumurtis also. But Srimati Radharani, so it is mentioned she is appearing from Krishna's left side, and Balaram is appearing from Krishna's right side. Paramananda Rupini. So she's the personification of the greatest bliss, ecstasy, Paramananda. Of course, Krishna is also known as Paramanand. Paramananda Madhav Krishna is the source of all transcendental ecstasy. So as the counterpart of Krishna, the pleasure potency, Srimati Radharani, so she is known as Paramananda Rupini, the embodiment of the highest ecstasy. And as we know, the love which is there, prem between Radha and Krishna, or any associates of Krishna, the different stages of prem, sneha, man, pranaya, rag, anurag, bhav, mahabhav. So the highest love, that is known as mahabhav. So Radharani, she is known as also mahabhav sarupini, similar as Paramananda Rupini, mahabhav sarupini. the embodiment of the highest form of love towards Krishna, which is only found in the gopis, the Mahabhav. But even there, different levels are there, and Radharani, she is, of course, the supreme of all the gopis, and so her love is unparalleled. It is known as Adirur Mahabhav. She is also known as Krishna. So there is Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and Krishna. So that is Srimati Radharani's name is also Krishna. So we know Krishna. In Sanskrit there's the short A and the long A. So Krishna with the long A, that is also name of Srimati Radharani. Vrindavani, she who always lives in Vrindavan. Brinda, of course there's Brinda Devi also. But the meaning here is also she who always lives in the company of her girlfriends. So Brinda here means, so when together, Bhakta Vrinda, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, that is a group of devotees together, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So Vrinda, here also with long A, because these are the gopis are there, female. So that is the meaning here of Vrinda. She's always accompanied by her girlfriends, the other gopis. So headed by Lalita. So yesterday we observed also the appearance there of Lalita Devi, who is the best friend of Srimati Radharani. The Ashtasakhis are there, the good friends. Amongst them, the foremost is Lalita Devi. So Lalita Devi, Vishaka, and then Champakalata, Chitra Devi, Induleka Devi, Tungavidya, and Sudevi and Ranga Devi. These are the Ashtasakhis. But then there are so many other, each Sakhi has 8 Sakhis under her, and they all have also many manjaris under her. But Srimati Radharani, so the Ashtasakhis are there, and Srimati Radharani is actually, of course, the Nayaka, the foremost, the heroine in regards to the pastimes of Krishna, and all the Ashtasakhis are in Radharani's group. But then they are, of course, divided, and there are even more groups, but these are the principal groups, and they all have also their gopi friends, and who are assisting in the service towards the divine couple. Vrindavan Vinodini, she who enjoys many pleasures in Vrindavan with Krishna in the center. So Chandravali, of course there's a gopi also named as Chandravali, who is the Vipaksha gopi, rival gopi. But Chandravali means also a row of moons. So Srimati Radharani, of course her name is also Chandramukhi. Her face is just like the full moon. But even, of course, one full moon is not enough to glorify Radharani. So therefore her name is Chandravali also. And that is explained, just like many full moons together, her beauty is such. Even thousands of full moons, they do not equal the beauty and effulgence of Srimati Radharani's lotus face. Chandrakanta, whose Kanta here means the effulgence, whose effulgence is like the moon. Of course, actually, the effulgence of the sun and the effulgence of the moon are coming from Krishna or from Srimati Radharani. Just like Krishna is effulgent, so Srimati Radharani, she's also effulgent. Actually, it is mentioned also even in the Gayatri, for those who are chanting Gayatri, the Brahma Gayatri. So the effulgence, the divine effulgence, so of course is there the Brahma Jyoti, but the Urja, Srimati Radharani, and that is in the month of Kartik, we observe Urja Vrata. So that refers ultimately to Srimati Radharani. Urja, that means also again the effulgence. Urjeshwari, Srimati Radharani is known as Urjeshwari. So she's supremely effulgent also, just like Krishna. So therefore, so the name Chandrakanta is there because the moon is very beautiful, the full moon. Of course, the sun is also beautiful. So therefore, she's known as Chandramukhi, or also sometimes as Suryamukhi. Just like this, like Krishna is known as Krishna Surya or Krishna Chandra. Beautiful as the full moon or the sun, or even the beauty is defeating the beauty of the sun and the moon. Similarly, Radharani is known, she's known as Chandramukhi or Suryamukhi. Far surpassing the beauty of the sun and the moon. But just to give some comparison, if you want to see something very beautiful in this world, so the sun is very beautiful and amazing, the sunshine gives so much light, or the moon also, very pleasing and very important. Without the sun and moon we cannot see. And the vegetables, the fruits, they get the juice of the vegetables and fruits that is coming from the moonshine. Sharat Chandra Prabhanana, so whose face is glowing just like the full moon of the Sharat season. So Sharat season is after the rainy season, which is just starting after the next Purnima, Ashwin Mas, and then the last day of the Sharat, the first month of Sharat Ritu, that is Sharat Purnima, where the Rasa Leela is performed. And the second full moon of the Sharat, because the seasons, in the West we have 4 seasons, they are approximately 3 months each, as we know, summer, autumn, winter, and then spring, sometimes some places longer and shorter, but in Asia, usually we have 6 seasons. So the summer, then the rainy season, then there comes the Sharat Ritu, which is before the autumn. It is after rainy season. Still it gets a little hot, but it is not too hot. It is a little more pleasant than the summer. But still it gets a little hot, as we can experience now. But it is a little pleasant. And because after the rainy season everything is green and the rivers have water and the ponds also, so it is very pleasant. Especially at night time. Daytime is a little difficult, but night time it is not too cold. But then afterwards in autumn, and then in winter it gets cold and it is a little unpleasant. But Sharad Ritu is very pleasant, a little hot during the day, but night time very pleasant. And similarly, Vasanta Ritu, the spring season, is very pleasant. And even it is mentioned usually that the spring season is considered to be most pleasant. It is not too hot and not too cold. Especially when Krishna is present. Actually, when Krishna is present, the weather is always wonderful. Even the winter is not too cold, the summer is not too hot. It is almost like spring. But still a little more hot when Krishna is present, a little more cold, but it is very pleasant. But most pleasing are Sharad Ritu and Vasant Ritu. And amongst the two, Vasant is considered to be supreme. So more names are there, 10 names, actually compiled by Rupa Goswami. Radha Dabadara Preshta Radhikava Shabanavi Samasta Balavi Vrinda Damilotam Samalika. Krishna Priyavali Mukya Gandharva Lalita Saki Vishaka Sarya Sukini Haririt Bringa Manjari. So beautiful names, 10 names compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. So first name again here is Radha, and then Damodar Preshta, very dear to Lord Damodar. So we have the Kartik Mass, which is coming soon. Little more than 1 month. And so which is known also as Damodar Mass. We call also, of course, Yashoda Damodar. Damodar Lila is there. when Maria Yashoda is binding Krishna because he was naughty, because he broke some pots, as we know the famous pastime. But also, actually in this month, we're not only worshipping Yashoda Damodar, especially as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because we try to enter into ultimately the Gopi Bhav, the mood of the eternal associates of Krishna, and all our acharyas, they're actually gopis. So then there's also the worship of Radha Damodar. And Srimati Radharani, she's also many times, she's binding by her love. She's able to bind Krishna. So the name Radha Damodar is famous. And we have, of course, the famous deity of Radha Damodar in Vrindavan, where Prabhupada stayed in Radha Damodar temple. His rooms are there. And then Radhika. So Radhika, as explained, many meanings of the name Radha. So Radhika or Radha or Radhika, Aniya Radhita Anunam Bhagwan Haririshwara, Yanno Govinda, Yanno Vyaya Govinda Prityam, Aniyat Raha. So this mentioned, so the gopis after the Ras Leela, when they were looking, where is Krishna, where is Radharani, and they understood that Radharani has gone with Krishna for a little while. So then they were actually glorifying Srimati Radharani, Anaya Radhita. So the greatest worshipper, Aradhana, we're doing worship of Krishna, Radha Krishna, Aradhana. So from that the names comes Radha or Radhika also, Aradhanam. So she's the greatest worshipper of Krishna, so therefore her name is Radha or Radhika. And then Varshabhanavi, so she's the daughter of Vrishabhanu Maharaj. Samasta Ballavi Vrinda, the Damilotsama Malika, so there's a flower which is known as Malika, and so they're making, of course, they're making so many beautiful garlands to be offered to Krishna, to the divine couple. But then also, of course, the gopis, when you can see, even when we serve the deities, we have Radharani's braid is there, and then we have some garland there around the braid. Of course, Radharani is wearing the garland, there's some decoration on the head also, but around the braid also. And so that looks very beautiful. The flowers are there around the braid. So Srimati Radharani is just like the crowning garland on the braided hair of the gopis. So Srimati Radharani, she's the foremost of all the gopis, and actually, of course, they're all very beautiful. But those who are together with Srimati Radharani, because Srimati Radharani, she's most beautiful and most pleasing to Krishna by her love, so therefore the gopis of Srimati Radharani, they're also becoming most beautiful, and they are also attracting Krishna. And then Krishna, Priyavali Mukhya. So Avali, Priyavali. So there's not only one Krishna Priya. Radharani is known as Krishna Priya, but all the gopis, as we even say, Vrindaya Tulsi Devi Priyaya Keshava Sacha, Krishna Priya. So Tulsi Devi, Vrinda Devi is also Krishna Priya. Ultimately all the gopis are Krishna Priya. Lalita, Vishaka, they're also Krishna Priya. Very dear to Krishna, dear, the beloved of Krishna, the all beloveds of Krishna. But Priyavali, of all those who are Krishna Priya, of all the gopis, Mukhya, she's the most important one. Again, Gandharva, she's very expert at singing and dancing and music. So she's playing, as we know, different instruments, tambura or veena also, most beautiful. Even it is mentioned, she's also very expert at playing the flute. Even sometimes it is said that actually, so Krishna, he plays very nicely the flute, and he's chanting everyone by his flute playing. But some say that actually Krishna learned playing the flute from Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani ki. Even Krishna learned how to dance from Srimati Radharani. We learned how to dance from Srimati Radharani. So even it is mentioned, even Mahaprabhu has explained, that actually Krishna is considering Srimati Radharani his guru. Krishna is saying, Mahaprabhu has told, that Krishna is saying, Ami Shishya, Radha Guru, that Srimati Radharani is my guru. Radharani is teaching me so many things. So Lalita Sakhi, so she's the best friend of Lalita Devi, of course, Vishakha, Sakhi, Sukini, she's giving pleasure to Vishakha. So she's, of course, all the gopis in Radharani's group, they are all taking shelter of Srimati Radharani. And then Hari Harit Bringa Manjari. So, and she's the bumblebee who takes pleasure in the flowering creeper, which is the mind of Krishna. So Krishna is actually always trying to think of Srimati Radharani, and Radharani, of course, is always trying to think of Krishna. So therefore also it is explained, and we know that Radharani's eyes are actually, the inside part is bluish, because she's always trying to see Krishna, and she's always seeing Krishna. Therefore the inner part of her eyes are blue. And Krishna's Sonabjanetro, Krishna is always trying to see Srimati Radharani, and she's golden in complexion. So the inner part of Krishna's eye is also golden reddish. So that is also explained. Kanaka Jalada, Nilasanob Janetro, Mrigamandavaramalo, Malatikundamalo, Taranavesho, Nila Pinta Beresho, Nibritani Kunjaradika Krishna Chandra. That is also a verse by Rupa Goswami, and also explaining about so how we try to remember Radha Krishna, the Nibrinta Nikunj. So in the night time when they're in the groves of Vrindavan, and then Nibrinta Nikunj is actually only where Radha Krishna and the Manjaris are. And the Nikunj is there, of course, and the Kunjas are there, so where the gopis are there. But then in the very innermost part, so then where Radha Krishna are there, then the gopis will not go there, only the Manjaris are going there. And there, so in this verse he's explaining that Srimati Radharani, she's just like gold, Kanaka, and Krishna, Kanaka Jalada Gatro. So they're very beautiful together, Radha and Krishna. Radharani is just like molten gold, Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Tapta Kanchana, molten gold. And Jalada, Krishna is just like a rain cloud, Megha Sham. Jalada, that is another name for cloud, Jalada, that which is giving rain. So of course Krishna is showering his blessings, and this way he is considered to be just like a rain cloud also, giving his mercy. Jalada, Nila Sonab Janetro, and they have beautiful garlands, Malati Malo, as explained also. And they are anointed with very nice scents, like especially also from the deer, the musk, kasturi, and then Nila Pitambaresho. So Radharani's dress, or sari or lenga, and uni, sometimes she's wearing a sari, sometimes a skirt, and then a veil, and that is of blue color. Why? Because she wants to be embraced by Krishna. So therefore she is wearing blue color. And Krishna, he likes the yellow pitambar, because he wants to be embraced by Srimati Radharani. So these are names, of course, so many more names are there. The 1,000 names are there. And different 100 names, there's a list of 100 names also by, which is said to be chanted by Mahaprabhu also. And of course our acharyas, they have so much glorified Srimati Radharani, and have explained that ultimately our goal is Radha Darshan, to take shelter of the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. And by serving Srimati Radharani, by taking her shelter, then we can actually serve Krishna. And therefore we also offering so many prayers to her. And there's a famous prayer which is actually spoken by Lord Shiva to his beloved Parvati Devi, known as Radha Kripa Kataksha Stotra. Munindra Vindavandite Diloka Shoka Harini Prasanna Bhakta Pankajeni Gunjabu Vilasini Brajendra Banu Nandini Brajendra Sunu Sangate Kada Karishyasi Hamam Kripa Kataksha Bhajanam. So we actually want the Radha Kripa Kataksha, so the sidelong merciful glance of Srimati Radharani. So it is mentioned here, Mudinda Vinda Vandite, all the great munis like Narada Muni and other great sages, so they're actually, they're glorifying, again here the name Vrinda, Vandite, they're glorifying Srimati Radharani as the supreme goddess of fortune, and Triloka Shoka Harini. So in this world, not only here, but even in the heavenly planets, there's some problem there also. Sometimes big demons, they're also sometimes going to the heavenly planets and disturbing the demigods. And what to speak in hell, so much problem is there. But anyone in the higher planets or this planet, anywhere, if one is taking of Srimati Radharani, if one is taking shelter of her, then all the difficulties are there. And even we experience so many difficulties, but if we take shelter of Srimati Radharani, then all the difficulties, they will go away or they become insignificant. Prasanna Bhakta Pankaje. So her face is, of course, most beautiful, and as her face is blooming, just like a lotus, and full of joy. Of course, Srimati Radharani has explained that Paramananda Rupini, so she's the embodiment of the greatest transcendental bliss. So because she's remembering Krishna, she's always eager to serve Krishna. Nikunja Bhu Vilasini, so she's performing, of course, she's performing pastimes together with Krishna in the Nikunja, so in the pastime groves. Brajendra Banu Nandini, so she's the beloved daughter of Vrishabhanu Maharaj. Brajendra Sunu Sangate, and she is always very eager to be together with her beloved Brajendra Sunu and Yashodananda, Nanda. So these verses are famous amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the Radha Kripa Kataksha Stotram. Some devotees, especially in the month of Kartik, they will chant every day in order to be able to get a sidelong glance. Even Prabhupada has explained, if Krishna is looking at you, if you get a sidelong glance of Krishna, then your life is perfect. So, but first we need a sidelong glance of Srimati Radharani. Then we will be imbued with love for Krishna, and then we can attract Krishna. Without Radharani's mercy, we can never attract Krishna. Then we will never get the sidelong glance of Krishna. But we need first Radharani's mercy, and then we can get Krishna's mercy. Of course, many other verses are there, like for example, Rupa Goswami and also Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, they have compiled Radhika Ashtakam, 8 verses glorifying Srimati Radharani. And of course, other great personalities have also given more verses. And also Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, he had actually also sung, many times he sang one song, which ultimately was actually originally given by Raghunath Das Goswami, but then he compiled and, of course, with the help of others also, and he was reciting very often. So just trying to always see Radharani. So Gaur Kishore Babaji was also for some time staying in Braj, but then towards the end of his life, so he was, most of the time he was done in Navadvip. So he's saying, Gota Go Prema Mayi Radhe, Radhe Radhe Go Jaya, Radhe Radhe. Oh Radhe Radhe, where are you, O goddess of ecstatic love? Oh Radhe Radhe, all glories to you, O Radhe Radhe. Deka Diya Prana Rako Radhe Radhe. Tomara Kangal Tomaya Dake Radhe Radhe. Oh Radhe Radhe, please show yourself to me and therefore I maintain my life. You most wretched servant calls out to you, O Radhe Radhe. Radhe Vrindavan Vilasini Radhe Radhe. Radhe Kanamono Mohini Radhe Radhe. O Radhe Radhe, O enjoyer of Vrindavan, Radhe Radhe. O Radhe Radhe, O enchantress of the mind of Kanu, Kanu Mana Mohini, one who is enchanting the mind of Kanu, and another name of Krishna is Kanu. Radhe Ashtasakhi Shiromani Radhe 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 Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe. O Radhe, O crest jewel of the eight principal girlfriends of hers, the Ashtasakhis. So she's a crest jewel amongst them, all of the gopis. O Radhe Radhe, O delightful daughter of Maharaj Vrishabhanu, Radhe Radhe. So she was calling out Radhe 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 Radhe. Of course, we don't do it in the temple, because otherwise the GBCs are coming while you're chanting Radhe Radhe, but at home or in the forest you can call out Radhe Radhe, no harm. Gaur Kishore Das Babaji was doing, and the six Goswamis, Raghunath Das Goswami was calling out Radhe Radhe, and the day before Radhashtami we can call out Radhe Radhe. And tomorrow also we can call out Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. So that is the day we can cry out from our heart, Radhe Radhe. So Raghunath is saying, and Raghunath was saying, Nyama kore sadaya dake Radhe Radhe, ek bar dake keshigate, abar dake vamsi vate Radhe Radhe. So here Niyama karo sadai. So the Goswamis, they were always following the regulative principles of Vaidhi Bhakti. But then, so they're following the regulative principles, going to Mangalartik, chanting Hare Krishna. But in between they're calling out Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. And then he's saying, and then at Keshi Ghat, we're doing parikrama of Vrindavan, coming to Keshi Ghat, then you can call out Radhe Radhe. And then you go a little further, you come to Vamsivat, where the Rasli was there, then you can call out Radhe Radhe. So Gaur Kishore Das is saying, he's one of our Acharya, Raghunath Das Goswami was doing like there. Ek bar dake nidivane, abar dake kunjevane, Radhe Radhe. Ek bar dake Radha Kunde, ek abar dake Shama Kunde, Radhe Radhe. So in Vrindavan there's Nidhuvan. Anyone has seen Nidhuvan? Next to Radharaman temple. So when he was going there, he was chanting Radhe Radhe. And then there's also there Seva Kunj, Kunjavan, Seva Kunj. Next to Radha Damodar, he was there and calling out Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe. And then he's coming to Radhakund. In Radhakund he's calling out Radhe Radhe. He's coming to Shamakund just next to Radhakund. He's calling out Radhe Radhe. Ek bar dake Kushamavane, abar dake Govardhana, Radhe Radhe. And then if you do Govardhan Parikrama, so you go to Kushum Sarovar, so you chant Hare Krishna, then you go to Kushum Sarovar, then you call out Radhe Radhe. And so she's the Shakti, the energy of Krishna. Then by chanting Radhe Radhe, you will get some energy, you can walk nicely, you can chant nicely the Maha Mantra. And then you come to Govardhan, and then you call out Radhe Radhe. And then Ek bar dake Talavane, abar dake Tamalvane, Radhe Radhe. And if you do Brajmandal Parikrama, the 12 forests are there. So one is Talvan forest. When you go there, you chant Radhe Radhe. So there are 12 main forests and there are sub-forests, the 124 forests. In each forest there is 12, and one of them is Tamalvan. You can go to the different sub-forests, and when if you are walking and you chant Radhe Radhe in between. Radhe Radhe! Radhe Radhe! Malina Vasana Diye Gai Vraja Dulaya Gadgadi Jaya Radhe Radhe. Mukhe Radha Radha Bole Vasana Nayara Jale Radhe Radhe. So the Goswamis, they didn't care so much for having new clothes every 2-3 months. Like pujaris, they get every Janmashtami, and in Kartik we get so many times new clothes because we have to be clean. But the Babaji, sometimes the clothes are not so clean and a little bit broken, but they don't care. They just chant Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe. And then they're rolling in the dust sometimes of Braj, and they're calling out Radhe Radhe. And then, so the Goswami's mouth, so it's always like we say Krishna Krishna, but then the Goswamis are also saying Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe. Mainly we chant the Maha Mantra, but sometimes we can also say Radhe Radhe. But not in the temple. But at home you can do, or in the forest, or in the different gullies when you do parikrama. But in the temple you cannot say always Radhe Radhe, you have to be careful. And then here also. And then when they're chanting Radhe Radhe, so then, and then their eyes are full of tears. So of course we are not yet there, but we should cry out so that one day the tears will come when we are chanting Radhe Radhe. Vrindavane kuli kuli kende merai, Radha boli Radhe Radhe. So that the Goswamis are wandering, and kuli kuli, so that means all the small gullies, the small lanes. If you go to Nidhuvan and all the small gullies are there where the cars are not going. So there, at that time of 400-500 years ago, there were no cars, fortunately. Now it's a little more difficult, but still, if you go inside, and then you can be a little more peaceful. Now no cars are there, then you can call out Radhe Radhe. Anto Chapana Danta Ratri Dine Janina Radha Govinda Bina Radhe Radhe. So actually the 6 Goswamis, they were hardly sleeping. It is mentioning that actually for 22 hours they were engaged in service. Only hardly 2 hours they were sleeping, the 6 Goswamis. So we need 6 hours, but anyway, no matter. It doesn't matter, but still we chant the holy names as much as possible, and in between we can chant Radhe Radhe also. So of course so much more we could say, but Radharani has so many qualities. 25 are mentioned. So of course tomorrow also you will hear more. But the 25th and most important, she always keeps Krishna under her control. So there are 8 kinds of heroines that is known as Naika. Krishna is the hero and Srimati Radharani is the heroine. And the quality is, which is, she's most expert at controlling Krishna by her love. Anyhow, it is 7:30. We could go on for much more, but I think we have to stop here because we have other service to do. Srimati Radharani ki, Sri Radha Shyama Sundar ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Srila Rupa Goswami ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe Shyam. Okay, now you can come here and you can take some prasad, and while you take prasad you say Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Ah, yeah, good. Radhe Radhe.